What's going on? What's going on?
Entertain the Geeky.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Welcome back to the Entertain the Geeky couch.
Entertain the Geeky couch. All right.
With the wall of comic news. I need to stop by and pick up more so I can finish the wall.
So many. You can take all of them.
Well, there's new ones.
There's so many of them.
I didn't want to have too many of the same one on the wall.
Sure.
Because then it would start to look dumb.
Yeah, but there's so many. They just keep piling up. I feel bad throwing them away.
No, they're fucking awesome.
Yeah, I feel like I just leave them where they are. I leave them on the little shelf by the door, and maybe somebody will take them. And
I need to come by and pick up my pole anyway.
Do some similar shit. Yeah, you got a few books in there. Yeah. Spider-Man's still going, and
I got some Transformers shit.
Well, yeah, the Energon universe stuff. Transformers, I think you got in there. You probably got Duke, or not a Duke.
Probably Duke. I thought you were pulling that one for me.
Well, no, I think it's over. I think you got all 5 of those.
I've got all 5 of those, folks.
Cobra Commander issue, maybe the final issue of that was recent, and then Scarlet and Destro just came out.
I am so bad about picking up my polls. I should be there once a week, like a normal person.
You don't even have anything on your pull and hold. The only reason you have books is because I just keep pulling the ones you asked for.
Because you're a fucking genius.
You never logged in.
Well,
added any subscriptions.
There was this thing that happened, and you were like, "Do you just want me to pull the shit that I know you'll like?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Well, I mean, it was the Energon universe, and it was Ultimate Spider-Man, right?
Right.
The first Ultimate Spider-Man is great for different reasons, very different reasons. The new one's great because Jonathan Hickman is always great.
Sure.
And I've rarely read a bad story that he's wrote, not just overseen, but wrote personally.
He tries not to suck.
He's good at not sucking, that's for sure. Yeah. And Ultimate Spider-Man is good. It's an interesting universe that they're in because the heroes are just now emerging within a present day type of setting. And so we're seeing a Spider-Man in a world without most of the other heroes. Because, Spider-Man definitely in his own comics has acted independently, but if anything got out of hand, he's got lots of friends.
Well, and when he started in kind of a bubble. So it was, you got to see him come into his own. But
even the original Ultimate Universe, eventually started teaming him up. They did X-Men early on because the X-Men were all young kids in that, younger kids in that story.
I was talking more the original Spider-Man run.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Amazing Spider-Man.
Amazing Spider-Man from way back when. Amazing Fantasy and all that silly stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Amazing Spider-Man still going on.
It is.
I do feel like they might be running out of ideas, though. And I'm not saying what they're doing is bad. What I am saying is it's silly. It's just really silly what they're doing.
They're silly gooses.
They're silly gooses. They are silly gooses. No, again, so it's not bad. It's just silly. It's Spider-Man has been kind of like post-hypnotic, messages planted in him by Norman Osborn. And Norman Osborn activated those trigger words, and now Peter is a goblin character called Spider Goblin.
Yeah, it's almost like they recycled the Superior Spider-Man idea in a way.
So a goblin, we've seen a goblin be a hero before. That's not what this is. This is Spider-Man being a villain.
Oh, getting shitty? Okay.
Yeah, being a villain. Because we've seen hero Green Goblin before. Ben Urich's nephew, Phil Urich, I think was his name, found a Green Goblin cache and just took the, serum and put the costume on and started being a Green Goblin superhero. It only ran for 13 issues in the 90s.
A year, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much a whole year. They got a whole year out of it. And it's not great, but it's the kind of book that when I was a kid, I thought was really awesome.
It was so different than what you were used to.
Yes. It was the book that definitely when I was as a child, it was interesting. And everyone, we get older and our tastes evolve. And now I can look back and go, well, that was just a really silly, weird book. It wasn't very good.
That was the 90s though,
right,
in comics. It was all, hey,
well, and that's
what can we do now?
When most of my comic reading, got in or started in earnest. I mean, I started a little younger than that, but that's when it really exploded when I had allowance money. And
it became a real hobby at that point.
And I could buy 1 or 2 comics a week, So yeah, it's It's not great.
$1.50 comics, guys.
And when I saw, and when I saw Spider Goblin, I immediately thought of that and was like, oh, I feel like you guys might be running out of ideas now.
Are we going to harken back to the 90s now?
So it's not bad. I've been reading the books. I try to keep up with at least big titles like that. But it's just not what I would have expected from the creative team.
Sure. Sure. Well, and then, so touching on the creative team there, let's dive into some TV now and go.
Yeah.
We're going to go with The Acolyte a little bit. Not go at it, but talk about it.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to go at it. Anything I have praised for the show.
I know you like the show, and it's so funny.
Do.
So if I'm on social media at all, I scroll through my feed and I see friends that love it and friends that hate it.
Sure.
And it's fucking hysterical. And they don't necessarily know each other.
Sure.
But I would love to facilitate those conversations just to be a shit. Like, oh, I need to tag you right here. I don't, because I'm 34 years old and I don't need to do that on the internet.
No,
but God bless America, I think of it every time. I'm like, oh, dude, you need to talk to Billy or whomever. You know what I mean? You guys will shred each other.
I mean, so I think The Acolyte is a good representation of High Republic storytelling. I have been reading High Republic comics. I've not read all the novels for the High Republic. I've read a couple of them. I like seeing something set in an era of Star Wars we've never done in live action. I think that is cool, first of all. So that's my draw. That's my hook. But I think any Star Wars fan that can't admit to themselves it's decent, at the very least that it's decently good, is just lying to themselves, or they're angry about some aspect of the show.
So I think what part of it is, and I don't necessarily believe that it's always them being mad about some aspect of the show.
Oh no, but I'm saying, that is a specific example. I'm talking broadly though. If you can't admit that it's at least good, then there's a lot of Star Wars that wouldn't appeal to you, and you call yourself a fan.
I was going to say, at least call it okay.
Exactly. You want to just come in and review bomb it without having watched it. Well, I have a problem with that. Or you watched the first episode and all of a sudden you're like, well, it's the worst show ever. That's not how TV works.
I have an acquaintance who keeps shitting on it, won't watch it, keeps shitting on it.
It doesn't make sense.
He's like, this is what they're doing now. He's like, have you watched it yet? And I'm like, no. I have not. I'm waiting for the series to wrap up and then I'll go through and I'll binge it.
I like it, man. I'm really enjoying it. But I understand.
I'm taking my time with this
one. Not everybody is me. And I'm not trying to say that is what has to happen. I'm just saying, like, I feel like if any Star Wars fan gave it an honest look as a Star Wars fan, as a fan of magic space wizards and shoot lasers and space flying around, would have to admit to themselves that it's actually one of the better television shows they've done since Disney started making Star Wars television.
There's some appeal there somewhere for a Star Wars fan.
And
I hear you.
And I think it's brilliant because it asks a couple of questions of the audience, right? It asks, are the Jedi wrong? Do they have too much power? In the High Republic era, if you're unfamiliar with the High Republic era, the Jedi kind of are the law. They're the government. They rule the galaxy. They enforce the laws. They write the laws. They are the government of the galaxy, right? And so the question we ask ourselves is, as we see these Jedi presented to us in the comics as well, going into insular type communities that are learning how to use the Force, right? And are teaching their children how to use the Force, they immediately say, hey, you can't do that. Only people who can train people in the Force is us. And we heard that you're training children. And we're going to take them from you.
You knocked that shit right off.
No, it doesn't even knock it off. We're going to take them from you. We're going to take your children.
Taking your babies.
Right? So the question I think the show asks of its audience very early on is, are we just trading one cult for another? Are the Jedi just another cult? They're just the cult that has the most power. Because we know as Star Wars fans, anybody that's gone deeper into beyond the surface than just movies, we know that the Jedi and the Sith are wrong. The Force was never meant to be separate entities. It was meant to be one balanced
Oh, we're getting all Revan-y now. Okay.
It's not even about Revan. It's canonically in, comics and books and stuff.
No, everything's always about balancing it out.
The first Jedi was balanced, dark and light. Somewhere along the line, we don't know when, because Disney hasn't told us that part of the story yet. And I think they are. They're going to do a first Jedi story. That's one of the movies that they've got planned, apparently. It was never supposed to be separate. It was supposed to be one unified thing. So the Jedi and the Sith are both wrong all throughout their existence about what the Force is and what it means to use it.
Yeah, it's
harness its power.
What extreme is worse is what we've seen.
Yes. And that is a show, or that is a question. God, that is a show. That is a question that the show asks.
Interesting.
Is, are they right or are they wrong? Because they come at these people like they're police. They come at them like police come at suspects in our world, right?
I mean,
they come at them with this unearned sense of superiority because they work for the law or they are the law.
Even if we hearken back to episode 1 and we look at how the Jedi Council wanted Anakin to be handled, no, you can't train him. He's too old. And Qui-Gon's like, whoa, hey, hold on. He's the most powerful Force user that I've ever encountered, and he doesn't even know how to use it yet. So it's good that somebody gets in front of him and teaches him so that he can explore this aspect of himself. And they're like, no, you're not that guy. And he's like, well, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's something that
Qui-Gon was a bit of a renegade.
He was
among the Jedi.
He was.
He, by all accounts, should have been sitting on the council, but
he was too hard-headed.
That was boring.
Yeah.
To sit in a room and debate principles and
when
stuff.
He was
wanted to go out into the world.
He was about doing his own thing.
Yeah.
And
find some action.
Yeah, I mean, Yoda even says, Qui-Gon's defiance, I sense in you, to Obi-Wan. So
that's true. Yeah.
Yes, we see that in Star Wars very early on.
Well, and they told us that Tales of the Sith story, Tales of the Jedi. I don't remember which. I think it was Tales of the Jedi. Yeah, because Dooku was once a Jedi, and Qui-Gon was his apprentice.
Yes.
They kind of build more of that in that story.
Okay.
Right? Just kind of the relationships and where that defiance comes from. Qui-Gon's defiance comes from Dooku.
Right.
Obi-Wan's defiance comes from Qui-Gon.
Yep.
Yeah.
I.e. Dooku.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, exactly. I don't know, man. I just think people need to be more honest about what they want from Star Wars as fans.
One of the things that's
because if what you want is quality storytelling and good action, this show's got it in spades.
I watched with a coworker recently.
Yeah.
We rewatched the Naboo Gungan and droid battle.
Sure.
And he goes, I want you to pay attention to the scenery. And I was like, okay.
Well, it looks like a Windows 98 world, but yes.
It's pretty bad.
It's bad.
We have these ships going over long flowing fields of grass, and then all of a sudden they're basically on a green fighting.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It was bad CGI.
Yeah.
And just not it. That wasn't supposed to be what you were paying attention to. And it was funny.
Sure.
Because I had never looked at that before. Never.
Well, your eye's not drawn to that. Your eye's drawn to the characters.
I'm excited.
Last hour figuring out who they are and what their motivation is.
Exactly. Yeah. And that movie's 2 hours and 20 minutes long. So
that's so short.
there's a lot of fucking shit there to peel through. So I thought that was really interesting, and it made me think about Star Wars a little more broadly, I suppose. And I'm like, how many times throughout history were we excited for it, let down, excited for it, let down, or something along those lines? And I think the thing that's happened more recently, we've got more Star Wars than we ever have before.
Sure.
And it's a double-edged sword. Okay. There's
no
real anticipation. We waited decades to get more Star Wars before. Yeah. Now you wait 6 to 8 months.
Sure.
And you're getting more Star Wars.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's going to be more shit out there. There's less anticipation, less excitement. So people are viewing it through just a very different lens now, and it's bizarre. And it's one of the things that I think is almost a drawback to Disney having that property is that it can be pumped out so quickly. As a fan, it's one of the things that you can be excited about too, because hey, in 6 months, I'm going to get some more of this universe that I've come to love.
More of that good Star Wars content that I enjoy. Because
exactly.
I think even the bad things have their good qualities. Look, most Star Wars fans don't want to objectively look at the original trilogy and say, there are flaws in what that story is.
Sure.
It's not the perfect story. None of them are the perfect story. The prequels, the sequels, the television shows, none of them, the original trilogy, none have ever been perfect movies. So I think we rose-colored glasses, the original trilogy, and everything has to be held up to the childlike wonderment that it caused in us when we saw it when we were little children.
100%.
My dad showed me the first Star Wars when I was like 10. You never, nothing. I don't care how long you wait. I don't care if there's a million things in between or you have to wait 20 years to see the next thing. Nothing is ever going to make you feel that way again.
Right.
It's not. Even if
you got that first hit.
Yeah, exactly. It's a drug. Every drug becomes less effective the more you do it.
Star Wars is the same.
Star Wars is the drug. It's going to become less effective the more you do it because you've put yourself in this bubble where everything has to make you feel the same way that original one did when nothing will ever make you feel that way.
Well, and
watching the original ones now won't make you feel that way again.
You had to use your imagination for more to fill in blanks, and that's where we got extended universe. It was fan fiction.
But that's why we think we romanticize those movies like they're perfect movies, is because we don't want to admit they have problems because of how they made us feel.
Right. No. And how we felt was great.
Yeah, and that's the problem I have with Star Wars fans who at least can't objectively look at each Star Wars thing. And no one's making you do it. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. But don't shit on it until you've taken the time to understand for yourself if it's actually bad in your mind.
Right.
Because everyone can have their own opinion about it.
Well, here, and you can watch it and think, yeah, this one is shit.
Right.
Cool.
And then at least when you're shitting on it, it's honest.
There's merit.
It's honest.
Yeah.
You gave it a chance. You tried to watch it and you didn't find it good. But if you want to talk about it without even giving it the chance, well, what are you doing?
That's not fair to it or fair to you.
It's not fair to you. Yeah.
Right.
I was going to say, it's not fair to it. It's not fair to you.
No, I mean, here,
you could be missing something that you would really enjoy.
One of my favorite things right now with Star Wars is watching the shitty tweets that people will send the creative team.
Sure.
And the creative team's responses, they're like, dude, did you watch it?
Yeah.
Like, no, all right. Hey, you should check it out because I think you're a little confused about what's happening right now.
Right, exactly.
But, if something in it isn't for you,
it's not for you.
Fuck it, don't watch it.
But give it a chance. If you're a Star Wars fan, you should be able to at least give a Star Wars thing a chance.
What I do think, and here, I'll say this now on the air. I've said it. I've alluded to it before. I don't think I've come out and said it. We're bleeding properties dry to an extent.
Sure.
Like we have so much of them.
Yeah.
And we're being inundated with them. And
right.
Yes, you will be fatigued at times from it.
Sure.
And certain shit you're just flat out not going to like. But you still loved it at one point in time.
Right. You're a fan.
Like you can't deny that. Oh, dude, here, I don't care who you were. If you went to watch the prequels in theaters, you might have left disappointed. You might have left stoked, but you went and watched it. And you know what? You went there beyond excited. And when you saw two blades come out of one lightsaber hilt,
they
did, but it was
such a moment if they hadn't shown it in the trailers.
Watching the Duel of Fates. That's sick, dude. Or when you watch fucking Luke blow up a Death Star for the first time. That shit was cool, man. It was magical, and that's what sucks you in. You have this kid from nowhere, who is you, by the way. You have this kid from nowhere that does something impossible. Like, that's the whole point of the story, is to inspire and to bring that out of you. Right. And if you can't find that anymore, it's not the story. It's you that lacks the creativity to pull that out and to find what it is that's appealing in that.
Well, yeah, and I think there's a fair argument to be made that we grow up and what we like about this thing changes as our, experiences change it. So I think there's something to be said about there is Star Wars if your need for Star Wars is that it needs to be taken more seriously. Andor is a perfect example.
Right.
Andor is a show that takes itself and the source material very seriously. It is arguably the Star Wars show for adults.
Sure.
That have grown up with Star Wars, but are not 10 anymore.
Right.
And it's not, they don't want the same things out of it that they used to
I don't need to
want.
laugh at the grab-assy droid jokes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would argue and to kind of bring this all full circle, I would argue that the Acolyte is that kind of thing that takes this source material seriously and really makes you think about this galaxy's politics and this world that they inhabit, which is what Andor does. Rebellion is built in Andor. And there's a reason it works, because the story takes that part of itself seriously. It uses the adult concept and makes that the focal point. And I would argue that this High Republic show takes that argument, the argument about whether or not the Jedi have too much power in the universe.
Right. Are we authoritarian now?
And makes it the serious focus of what the show's narrative is trying to sell you.
Interesting.
So it makes you think. We love this, and we all were kids, and it all made us feel that way. But we love it. But we want to explore more complex ideas, because we now in our heads have more complex ideas.
When you were just more complex as an individual, you've experienced an entire life between now and then.
Right. So why is it woke to say, let's explore a concept that is adult in nature? Whether or not the Jedi have too much power, or whether or not the Empire has too much power, the core of both those shows is the same.
Right. We are fighting against overreach.
And we're making you ask questions about what that overreach means, not only for this, project or this particular show or movie that you're watching, but in your own life.
Right.
It's important to understand where you stand on those kinds of issues. Even if you don't stand with me or you.
Somewhere.
It's important to know that you stand somewhere.
Right. And where that might be.
Right. Be informed, especially about yourself.
And what if that's holding a mirror up to yourself and you don't like what that mirror is showing you?
None of us like what the mirror shows us.
Well, you know what I mean, though.
I do. There's because none of us unless you're like a billionaire with just the best life with nothing to do. You surf every day. Everybody looks in the mirror and goes, oh, some days, maybe not every day, but some days we all look in the mirror and go, ugh.
We all have our moments. That's for sure. Yeah. We've got those times where we're getting our butts kicked by life, and we recognize it.
But that shouldn't stop you from learning about yourself. Because
I totally agree.
Everyone always says, do your research. I have people say that all the time. Do your research, make your own opinion. Well, one of the biggest things you should do your own research about is yourself. Take care of yourself.
Well, jeez.
I got a little philosophical.
How do we follow that up? Yeah, you're stuck.
Take care of yourself.
You're stuck in this vessel, okay? Your body for one lifetime. Your one lifetime.
And I don't oftentimes take that advice myself.
Sure.
So
nobody does. Nobody's perfect there.
It's hard.
It's so funny though, because talking about this, I do understand an individual's want to hearken back to a particular moment in time when things were simpler.
Yeah, nostalgia kills, man. Nostalgia kills.
I get that. But,
I get it too.
And dude, there's certain songs that I'll hear and I'll feel like I'm 16 years old in the car again. Yeah. So, and it's cool.
I listen to the radio.
It's cool. Like there's parts of that it's like, oh man, there's so much ahead of me. But yeah, you do have to recognize where you are now, not where you were then. And that's cool. That's cool. That was a brilliant way to bring that to the table, Jason. I commend you for that.
Every now and again, I can get a Kevin Smith mystical, wise moment out of my mouth. Every now and again, it happens.
Oh my God. Oh.
No, I'm not that arrogant, but I do think that it's a good show. It's a good show. I like it.
You know what I love about you is you're a fan, unapologetically. Even if something's not great, you're like, yeah, but it's still part of it, and I like that about it.
But it's got this, and it's got this,
right? You do look for that silver lining.
Is the Book of Boba Fett good? No, not really.
No, it fucking sucked.
No, it's not great. And that's objective. I watched it, right? I've watched it multiple times to see if it got better later, and it doesn't.
Did it age well?
No. But again, there are a couple of things that are really cool. Cad Bane's in it, and he's great. He's one of the greatest characters they ever created in the expanded universe.
Sure.
He's awesome. And Boba Fett rides a Rancor into battle with with giant droids.
Yeah, that's kind of dope.
And I don't care what anybody says. There is no one that was watching that last episode and wasn't like, oh, you when the Rancor came in with Boba Fett riding on it.
You punished yourself by watching that whole show. You deserve that cookie at the end.
It was the cookie. It was definitely one of the greatest moments of Boba Fett action in the entire show. Yeah.
Oh my God. What else have we got here?
Movies. Deadpool is upon us.
Dude, it's so freaking close.
Deadpool's upon us. We got one more month to go.
So
a little less than a month.
I'm on YouTube the other day.
Sure.
I say the other day, this was a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
And an ad comes up. And it's Wolverine goes to get his claws out. Nothing happens. And Deadpool's like,
dicks his claws, yeah.
And Deadpool's like, oh, sorry, man. I borrowed some of your adamantium to make this. And he pulls out Heineken's.
Oh, this is a different thing.
Oh, yeah. Thinking. No. They did a Heineken ad. This blew my freaking mind because I'm like, this is still a Disney property now.
Sure.
Like, this is not 20th Century Fox getting shoehorned into doing this.
Doesn't Heineken make beer that doesn't have alcohol?
They do, but this wasn't the non-alcoholic
Well,
Heinies. Come on, man.
But their company makes non-alcoholic beer.
Man.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
So I think Disney's good with that, right?
It's that's an okay image.
It's not alcoholic.
If we pretend it's non-alcoholic, it's okay. Don't do it and drive. But
don't drink non-alcoholic beer and drive. I don't think that's. I
don't think
that's a thing.
I've totally drank NA beers and driven.
I mean, we're drinking non-alcoholic beer. You might as well just be drinking water.
You might as well be driving, motherfucker. But no, I see that, and I was just mind blown by it because I'm like, holy cow, this is like there was something that was so appealing about that, and I don't know why. Okay, there was some commercial consumer thing.
It's always been a part of it. Batman drove through.
What the hell?
What I was saying though is Batman drove through McDonald's and drank Diet Coke.
Yes, he did.
In commercials.
Yes, he did.
It's always been that part. It's always been that way.
And I'm not disagreeing with that, okay?
I mean, it's fun.
Watching Transformers movies a couple of years ago, just a few years back, okay? The movies weren't great. But the thing that became unbearable with them was the movies became commercials, okay?
Yeah, for cars.
It was not just cars.
For cars and Mark Wahlberg.
Budweiser. It was a bunch of bullshit. And I'm like, dude, come on, man. I want fucking robots in disguise, not beer trucks.
Sure.
You dicks. And it's so weird that I felt that way, but then seeing a stupid commercial with Deadpool and Wolverine for some beer, I was about it, man. I was like, this is great.
Well, sure.
That was brilliant.
Well, sure. I think I agree with you because I think there is something to be said about putting your ad in the movie and doing an ad promoting the movie. Those are, I think, very different things. Mm-hmm. I don't mind seeing Deadpool and Wolverine in a commercial, but if I see Deadpool and Wolverine like drinking Heineken, I might be upset.
They do a plug there in the movie where they're like,
be upset about that.
Hey, you look thirsty. Here's a Heineken.
Yeah, Heineken is your beer. It's not alcoholic because Disney gets mad if we drink booze.
It's a nah. Oh, but yeah, it's so close. And what I was saying though is that there was like this rogue aspect to that I have not felt has existed in a Marvel movie for a minute.
Sure.
And the last time I really felt that way was in 2016 when we were getting ready to see the first Deadpool movie.
Sure.
And I was so freaking stoked for that, man. I remember
it's a good movie.
February.
Still a good movie.
Coming around and being like, oh shit, it's time to go see Deadpool. And a buddy of mine who wasn't even into that shit, he goes, hey, are we going to go see this movie together? And I was like, homie, it's opening night. Let's go. And he's like, bet. We went, had a great time. He's like, that was fantastic. I need to watch more of these.
One of the opening line of dialogue is my boyfriend told me this was a superhero movie, but that guy in the red suit just turned that other guy into a fucking kebab. It's great. From beginning to end, it's great.
And I feel, and I have so much hope that we're going to get that again.
I hope we get
I
don't think there's any way two guys that are on the friend level of Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman don't have an amazing time making this movie together.
I'm sure they did.
Both playing two of the most iconic, recognizable characters across all of the Marvel stuff.
And the only reason Hugh Jackman agreed to this was so he could finally be a part of the MCU.
Well, sure. I mean, I think
that was a big part of it.
I think he's going to be from a different timeline. I don't think he's going to be. No. I don't think the MCU timeline plays into this at all.
It's not the same. It's not the same. Right. But one of the big things was he was like, I want to be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
This will be a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie.
Yes,
I will
exactly.
Give you that. Yes, absolutely.
And he gets to finally, after 20 years of playing that character, he gets to put his little stamp on it. And he had already hung up the claws. And you know what? He did it gracefully and beautifully.
Logan is, God,
such a fucking kick-ass flick, man.
It's so good.
So seeing okay, you know what? I'll do this one more just so I get to do it. Man, that's kind of cool.
I like to think, I mean, that is cool, but I like to think it went down more like Ryan Reynolds told us it did, where he was just like hanging out with Hugh Jackman at his house. And he was like walking away to go take a piss. And he just goes, hey, Hugh, you want to play Wolverine one more time? Hugh goes, yeah, sure, Ryan. As he's walking upstairs. And I was just like, I like to think that's how it went down.
That's how it went.
They were just hanging out one day. And he was just like, hey, you want to play Wolverine again? And Hugh Jackman was like, yeah, sure, Ryan.
Does it pay?
Oh, I'm sure they're both making quite a lot of money.
Oh, they are making.
To be in this film.
Millions.
The dedication that Hugh Jackman has to give us back the Wolverine that we remember him being before Logan, showing him all old and, dad bodding it up. I think there is something to be said about that man's dedication to his job, that when he first agreed to do it, the next 5 months to 6 months were just him posting pictures of himself getting jacked.
He was in the gym.
I was just like, dude,
jacked, man.
You have dedication. You're like an old dude now.
Well,
you have dedication to this role.
I remember in 2008 when he was doing that god awful Wolverine Origins movie. And I think that was the most jacked I'd ever seen him. He was fucking huge. In that scene where he pops out of the water and is just shredded with all the little things sticking out of him.
Yeah, but he's that level of shredded also in the movie that came after that, The Wolverine.
No, you're right. He was very jacked in that one.
He's super shredded in that.
He was very jacked. But
I think that might be the most shredded.
You could be right. There was just a period of time where that guy was a superhero. Like, not when he first became Wolverine.
Oh, no. Do you notice how he went from not that guy to that guy, and then went back to being not that guy when they did Logan?
He was still more that guy than he was this guy.
Well, no, I understand, that he started
with. You know what I mean?
The way they had him dressed the whole time and stuff definitely hid that from us.
Definitely.
Right?
Definitely.
And he reminded me of like first X-Men movie Wolverine before he was the jacked man that we know him as today.
Yeah, Hugh Jacked man. Freaking wild, dude. I can't fathom working out like that.
No,
I have zero desire to. But
no.
I will tell you, if somebody was like, "Hey, Chris, you're gonna come play an old Spider-Man tomorrow," I would get fucking or in 6 months. Yeah, I would spend 6 months and get jacked.
Well,
fuck it.
But again, that in I respect the game, I do, but that in and of itself is the problem, right? Is the fact that we don't have what he has. He has a chef making the meals that are appropriate for him to eat to get the muscles he's trying to get.
Homie.
He has a personal trainer telling him exactly which targets to hit.
I would have
when he's doing his
I would have
out.
Cans of tuna and YouTube. I would have all the protein I would need and all the workout videos I would need.
Tuna and YouTube.
I can afford a carton of eggs, let me tell you. Maybe 2 of them on a good week. But yeah, like, I am stoked for this one. I am very excited for this one.
I can't wait. I'm very excited.
And I've not been this excited for a Marvel movie since Endgame, but like I said, that response that they got out of me, it's 2016 was the last one a Marvel movie got one like that.
I like Deadpool a lot, and I've liked the first 2 movies, but I'm going to tell you the thing that is exciting about this movie is not Deadpool. The thing that is exciting about this movie is seeing a comic accurate Wolverine. Whether or not he's comic accurate in his physical stature is not the point I'm trying to make.
You just want that costume.
I want the costume, and I want to see the Wolverine that wore it. That's what I want to see, because that Wolverine is very different than the Wolverine he's played so far.
For sure.
It's that guy.
Berserker Barrage.
You can't see it, but I'm pointing off screen to a John Byrne picture of Wolverine in the classic yellow, black, and blue costume.
Yes, he is.
That's what I want.
With that ridiculous red belt. Totally clashes with the outfit. I want to
see that guy, and I think that's the guy we're going to see.
I hope so, man. God, I hope so.
Because Jackman is a good actor, and he understands that this is a different Wolverine than the Wolverine he's played before.
He's got depth, man. He can do it. I have faith in him.
That's what's exciting to me. For all I care, Deadpool's great, and I'm excited to see him. But the movie should be called Wolverine and Deadpool. That's all I'm saying. That's why I think a lot of people are going to sit in this theater and watch this movie, is because they just want to see Hugh Jackman be Wolverine again.
I think, yeah, you're probably freaking right. I actually have Deadpool and Wolverine fighting in a painting over there on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of Deadpool in his first two movies, and we've seen a lot of Wolverine in all the X-Men movies they've done. But this time around,
not like this.
This time around, while I like both characters, I think the Wolverine is what I'm most excited about.
Ooh.
Should be Wolverine and Deadpool.
So, something that I think you guys need to do, okay? I want you to rewatch Logan because it's good for you.
Oh, I thought you were segueing into go to entertainthegeeky.com, and I was about to compliment you on a classic good segue there.
No, I debated it, but I did want
You know what you guys need to do?
I was going to remind them first to rewatch Logan.
Yes, Logan is great.
Now I'm going to tell you fuckers to go to entertainthegeeky.com.
Oh, now you've insulted them. They're not going to do it now.
It's
do you see what you've done?
It's a term of endearment.
They're not going to do it now. You've insulted them.
I just want you guys to know, me and my friends call each other horrible things. Horrible things.
Those people out there may not necessarily be the same as your friends.
You're my friends, too. You folks, y'all. How about that? That's very inclusive.
I like y'all.
That's very inclusive.
Because I live in Missouri.
Yeah, it has a little bit of Southern charm there. Y'all need to go to entertainthegeeky.com. There you can follow us on all of our social media. On top of that, get a free copy of Merle's Truck Stop in Maine. I have had hours of fun playing that game. Many people have. You need to play it. We need to do a playthrough for you just so you can hear an updated one, because the last one is almost 10 years old at this point.
That's too long. That's a long time ago.
Way too long.
God.
We're going to start working on a few new things here soon that we can share with you guys, but I'm going to stay shut up until we do it so I don't put my foot in my mouth.
Okay. Good deal.
You have any words of wisdom you'd like to impart our dear listeners with?
Enjoy all the nerdy things that you love. And don't let anybody tell you that your nerdy thing is not as good as their nerdy thing, because everybody has their own nerdy thing.
Stay geeky.
I told you I get some Silent Bob stuff in there every now
That was a lovely one. That was a lovely one.